Welcome to the Pool Chasers podcast. I'm your host, Greg Villafania, joined by my co-host, Justin, the bearded plumber Bowie.
That's right. That's right.
And today we've got a very special guest with us. We got Mr. Ryan West. How you doing, brother?
Great. Fantastic. Happy to be here.
Great.
Yeah. So how's your day going?
Actually, today's been fantastic. Everything's in line. Couldn't ask for a better day.
Yeah. Does it make you nervous when it starts to heat up here in Phoenix?
I don't know.
No more bitching
Sometimes.
than usual from the team?
You guys are in the water a lot, right? So, I mean, at least you got that.
In the summertime, yeah, just about every job are in the water.
Damn, you guys might be one of the few that gets to actually, go into the forbidden, water. I feel like everybody else
Work
is
on
kind of
it,
just
not in
building it and doing their thing, but you guys get to slap on the wetsuits or whatever it is and jump right in.
Yeah, we do it pretty much on every job in the summer, and wintertime, we still dive a little too.
Hell yeah. Well, we're going to jump all into it, but I am not going to forget on this episode. We've got some beers from our good friends at Wren House, and we're going to crack open some beers. So
Right.
let's open them up.
All three beers
One.
today are Wren House.
2, 3. Oh, that sounded good. Even the cameraman Ron over here is cracking the beer. I love it. All right. Cheers, guys.
All right.
Cheers.
Cheers. Woo!
That's a hoppy son bitch right there.
Not bad.
No comment. No comment, Justin. No comment.
What do you got, Greg? What do you got?
Dude, check this out. I got the Joe Max.
The Joe Max.
The Joe Max. And this is a coffee stout. I've brought a coffee stout on before, but this one is mighty tasty. I'm not going to give this an official score taste-wise. It's probably about 7.9. I think I did 7.8 last week. This is about a 7.9. And yeah, maybe I'll give another review as we continue with this episode.
If you stay awake.
If I stay cracked out on this stout drink. What you got, Justin?
So I got Wren House Brewing, of course. Art of the Fugue. Is that how you say that? Fugue?
I think so. The lady, that's how she said it.
Okay, fair enough. This is a European Pilsner. Super hoppy. I'm not a hops guy. Give this like a 6.8.
Justin's not a hops guy? Bullshit.
I used to be big in the hops. Not so much anymore.
All right. What you got, Ryan?
If I can pronounce this, all I'm going to say is it's a Czech pale ale.
All right. It looks good. Is it good?
It's not bad. It's smooth.
Nice.
If you had to rate it, what would it be? Scale of 1 to 10.
For lagers, I'd probably say it's got to be like an 8 or a 9. I think it's good.
Nice.
Ooh.
All right.
Yeah.
Damn. You're lucky Mike's not here because I gave a whole number score one time, like 2 episodes ago. And he's like, man, those are amateur scores. You got to put some decimals in there or something
Decimals?
like that. Yeah.
All right.
Do you follow Portnoy, Dave Portnoy, and the pizza, his pizza across the United States? He scores them all. Do you follow that at all?
No, but I probably should.
Yeah. I'm a big pizza guy. Anyway, he's always scoring stuff, and it's the rule is never a flat number. It's got to be a point something.
Dude,
Agreed.
are we going to get to the point where we start reviewing pizza on this bitch? Because
I hope so.
That would be so awesome. Beer and pizza. What do you guys think?
I like it.
Good deal.
I like it.
All right. So let's jump right into this. Why don't you tell us a little bit about you and your company, Ryan?
So I'm Ryan West, and I've been running Leak Science for almost 9 years. I got into the pool industry back in 2006 after 7 years in the Navy.
Thank you for your service.
You betcha. I got a little bit burnout cleaning and repairing pools, so we got into leak detection. And it's been quite a journey, I can tell you that. It's tough, it's hard, but it's worth it in the end.
Always Arizona?
For pool industry?
Yeah.
Yes.
Nice. So
Yeah,
started in
Phoenix.
service and repair,
And then moved
maintenance.
into leak detection.
Nice.
So was it anything that had to do with the Navy that got you into the leak detection stuff, or how did you end up doing leak detection stuff?
Honestly, I was an aircraft mechanic in the Navy.
Really?
I was going to college at Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University and was doing this as a side job. Ended up starting a pool company, sold it, and got into leak detection.
What was the name of the pool service company again?
I used to own Diamondback Pool Service Repair.
That's right. That's right.
Nice.
Yeah. You guys were doing pretty well back. I feel like we were just kind of, getting up and running when you kind of switched over from Diamondback to League Science.
Yeah, I did okay with it with Diamondback. It really wasn't my forte, dealing with cleaning pools and all the small details. I feel like League Science has been a much better fit.
Sure.
Yeah.
And you get to get in the pool, like we talked about. How cool is that?
I always got in the pool anyways, but
I know people talk about not going in the pool. Any opportunity I had to go like brush a back wall where I could get like just swim. I mean, if they saw me, I looked like I was enjoying myself. But I'm like, dude, it's 110 degrees outside. I'm making sure this back wall's getting brushed and I'm getting in and I'm swimming.
that's right, attention to detail.
His attention to detail is so good. Is that a pina colada in his hand? Yeah,
Right.
he's just using that pool. Awesome. Yeah. So, what was that first year like? I'm curious. We'll get to these questions, but what was that first year like when you started League Science? I mean, did you dabble in it with Diamondback?
Not really. Like,
You just jumped like full transition, like
pretty
gonna figure
much,
this out?
I still had some accounts that I was still doing, and I really wanted out of it. So I made the last sale for the last route I had, and it was into leak detection. First year, I'd have to say it's one of the hardest years of my life. Actually, the first 4 was.
No shit.
Just getting
Yeah.
acclimated and trying to get everything going, or what?
This stuff was so hard.
Really?
I don't know that I could do it again if I had to start it over. I was a little younger when I started it, but
Mhm.
it was tough. Like, we did some hard things in the military, but nothing like this,
What was it? Like the work part of it, or understanding the equipment, or what was hard?
all of it.
Really?
I mean, there's really not a legit training course you can go through.
Mm.
I had trained with a guy for a pretty short time, a couple days in California, that had been doing it for 45 years, that I knew through some family. From there, it was really on me to figure out the rest of it. But yes, it was not easy. I'm not sure why I stuck with it,
Hmm.
but I'm glad I did.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I mean, I'm glad you did too, because you do a great job. And
Well, thank you.
leak detection. We've definitely partnered up and shared time with a lot of those guys, and you guys are solid.
Appreciate it.
So yeah, that's awesome. I wouldn't have guessed that though. I would have thought, you have all the equipment, you have all the stuff. I wouldn't have expected that would have been that difficult. That's crazy.
I mean, to answer your question on that, I still tell people it is 90% the operator and
Really?
it's 10% the equipment. I mean, you can have the greatest equipment set up that there is, but at the end of the day, if you don't know what sounds you're listening for underground, you're gonna have a really hard time with it.
Yeah.
And the only way you're gonna learn that is to muff time, putting those earmuffs on and listening.
Wow.
So to, give some context here, can you tell people like what is League Science and what are the services that you provide? And it's here in the Phoenix, Scottsdale sort of metro area, right?
As of now, we're doing a lot of pool leak detection, but pretty much pipes that are broken underground. That's our deal. Underground stuff.
What are you using? What equipment do you have? What is the whole setup for you guys?
Pretty much most of your stuff is going to be done with ultrasonic acoustics,
Okay.
and it's not sonar. I hear that a lot. Sonar bounces off at things like submarines. They use sonar.
Hmm.
This is ultrasonic acoustics, so we're amplifying vibrations underground. It's going through a microprocessor, which takes those vibrations and turns them into audible sound.
Hmm.
And we'll run that through different filters with the acoustics to try to filter out different background noises to try to really get you to what the sound is that you want to hear. So there's some of these leaks, I mean, we'll hear the same leak on the other side of the pool, but that's not the leak. The leak that we want is making just a certain sound at just the right frequency.
So you got your listening devices. What are you using to put the noise into the plumbing system? Is it air or what
We
is?
use air CO2.
Yeah. So you got your pressure inducers, right? You got your listening devices. I'm sure you guys do a fair amount of dye testing too, right?
Dye testing, yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, honestly, static leaks are not fun.
Yeah.
We've got one we're working on now. We've been out there 3 times, and it's just we don't see any signs of a crack or anything. We've checked all the plumbing, so we're going to go back in and recheck all the plumbing, probably drain the pool,
Mm-hmm.
do another inspection on it. So, yeah, we do quite a bit of dye testing,
Mm-hmm.
visual inspection, and then obviously pressure testing of pipes.
So I don't know if you've answered this before, but if you drain a pool and you pressure test it, how do you exactly say the pressure's dropping? How do you actually find where that leak might be when there's no water in it?
I mean, there's got to be some water in the pipe, or you've
Okay.
got to put it in there. And, really what you're looking for is the air and water coming out of the break, making bubbles. And those bubbles is really, for the most part, what you're looking for. Not every leak is going to make that noise. And that's when the experience comes in and know, hey, for various reasons, this leak is not going to bubble. You're listening for something different in order to find this one.
So when you started, like how many times did you miss? Were you just like all
I had
over?
some really bad days.
Really?
Give us
Really
some
bad
examples.
days.
I want to hear about these bad days.
Let me think. I've had a lot of them. The one thing I can tell you is we never quit on them. So we did eventually find them, but it's just, you want like specific jobs or?
Yeah, I mean, you don't have to give like homeowner's name or anything, but just some nitty gritty details would be cool.
We had a big one up in Silverleaf probably like 5 years ago. That was a rough job. This was an expensive house, of course. And he had this water feature, right? L-shaped water feature up against the house. And I'd get a call from the pool service guy. Hey, this thing lost all of its water in 2 hours. I spent a month up there.
Oh, wow.
Off and on.
On a water feature.
A water feature. We pressure tested. I was like, here's a suction line that's losing a PSI every minute. I'm like, there's no way that's it, but I think it's here. So we're breaking out the bottom of the fountain. It's solid concrete and 6-on-6 rebar. It's in the middle of summer. It's in July and nothing. Put it all back together. Everything's good for a week. Get a call. Hey, this thing lost all of its water. I'm like, how? I pressure tested this thing 5 different times, thinking maybe I had an equipment failure. Maybe one of my gauges was bad. So one Saturday I wake up at like 3:00 in the morning and I'm like, light went off. Make a call. Can I get in there? I got an idea. So I go up there and it's one of these equipment areas that is down underneath the backyard. So you go down the stairs to get to the equipment and the pumps are up on the walls and all that. And I'm just looking. So I start looking there's 9 spigots and I look in the equipment area and I'm like, that's kind of funny. There's 10 jandy valves, but there's 9 spigots. So I got to looking at them and the one in the middle had a carved X on it. Somebody did it with a screwdriver. So the pool guy's down there and he's trying to balance out all the spigots. And as he's going down, he's grabbing all these jandy valves and fine tuning them. Well, here and there, he would grab this one that had the X on it and open it up. So I went on ahead and pressure tested and found out that it terminated halfway to the fountain underneath the deck.
No way.
And it had been left open from day one when the pool was built 15 years ago. And this had been a problem going on for that long. So it was a ghost problem. I mean, out of the blue. And I would find out that, hey, were you down here last week messing with the balance of the valves? Yes.
Were you
That's
that calm
crazy.
when you asked him?
Listen, motherfucker. Yeah. Man, it was tough because this was a high profile guy. He owned a really large construction company and he had run out of patience with me on this.
Shit.
But I mean, during the job, gosh, we had a planner that I was listening in and the irrigation system came on at the time that I was listening in there. Sounded like a leak. We dug this whole planter out
Oh no.
to find out that I had water down there. And I'm like, gosh, I found the leak finally. You know, I got water and mud and I can hear it down there spraying water. It was irrigation.
That sucks.
But luckily I went back up that Saturday and figured it out. It just never dawned on me to count how many valves were in the equipment area and to think that one of those was left open. So we get thrown curved balls like that. Hopefully we don't get too many, but that does happen. We learn lessons from them.
So that's probably a really good lesson to learn. I mean, you're looking at all the little things.
You can't take anything for granted with this job. Any corner that you cut on it will absolutely come back and get you.
Mm. What happens when you predict a leak is somewhere, or you tell them, hey, it's here, and then you blow it open and it's not there, and they got to put it back together? Do they freak out?
Some people do.
Yeah.
You're talking about the homeowner?
Yeah, because I mean, imagine you miss and then they got a 4x4 hole or a 2x2 hole or whatever.
I mean, we take quite a few measures nowadays to make sure that doesn't happen, but sometimes it does. And any leak company will tell you that sometimes we're off.
So is like when you go out to do a job, do you tell people that up front? Do you have like a contract or something that says, hey, look, we're not doing our best, but this is, human? And
I do.
Yeah.
I do have some stuff written into the contract. As long as you don't quit on somebody, we're going to put it back. Like, we will figure this out. If we inaccurately located it, there's a very good reason behind it.
right.
And when we get the ground open, we're going to find out why.
I see.
But it does happen.
You said we're going to put it back together. Do you actually do the reconstruction too? Like,
We do.
really?
Yep.
So if it's pavers, concrete, cool deck,
Absolutely.
no
On every
doubt.
job.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. And you do the plumbing, right? You'll do the repair yourself, the whole
Yep.
nine. So start to finish, turnkey.
Start to finish it. The finish work took us a while to learn and perfect, but it's just like anything else. If you want to learn something, you'll learn it eventually.
Yeah.
So flagstone work is probably the hardest putback we do, but cool deck, pebble tech work, I mean, you just got to practice with it.
So does every one of your guys have the ability to do that, or do you have like a certain, like a crew that goes behind, or how does that work?
We have thought about doing it that way. Most efficient way to run it is the guy that opens the deck does the job from start to finish.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Geez, where do you find those people?
You make them.
Ah,
You make them.
I like that.
I like that a lot.
It's really hard to teach this stuff, and to make a leak locator, to make a leak repairman. I mean, you got to invest the time, and not all of them make it.
Yeah.
What do you think it takes to be good at leak detection? Because after hearing, that story, that's probably what made it so difficult. It's almost like this job where it's life or death. You know what I mean? Where it's like, are we sure the leak's there? Because if I tell them it's in their living room and we dig that shit up,
It's under this porcelain statue.
yeah, exactly.
We've been there on that stuff, and it's like, if the stakes are high, you either write something in to the contract, or you'll strategically spend as much time as you need to spend on it. You'll do everything.
Yeah.
to make sure it's there, because there's really nobody else that I'm going to call in. You know, I could try calling a competitor in, but they may or may not want to come out there with me, you know?
Right.
So that was such a good story. You got one more? Like, it really was a good story.
I'd have to think of another one. Gosh, I think probably the first leak job that I did after I had gotten my training, it was up in Peoria, and another leak company had gone in there before us and broke the crap out of the bottom of the spa. And that had turned into a lawsuit, unfortunately for them. But I mean, it was a mess. And we basically ended up finding the pipe bundle 20 feet away, you know, 2.5, 3 feet down underneath the pavers, under the stairs. And I think I spent a week on that one. And that was really my first leak job. And I called the guy that trained me. I said, you're out of your mind. I'm like, what did you get me into here? I'm like, you need to come out here and figure this out.
How long does it usually take to find a leak and repair it? I mean, is there kind of a average, you know, for scheduling purposes, I guess?
First off, it depends on how efficient you are with what you're doing. Obviously, some of these guys have been out here doing this for 20 and 30 years. At some of these companies, they can pop in there and pop out in an hour or 2 hours. It really depends on the leak. I mean, most of them, once we get on the pipe that's actually leaking, I bet we could have it located in 30 minutes to an hour. But on the pools, it's all the pressure testing and all the dye testing leading up to it.
Yeah. I know, you know, owning a pool plumbing company, I feel like we're the first person that gets called every time there's water loss. So, like, out of curiosity, like, what's your ratio of like pool plumbing leaking versus structural? And I would expect that to be different in like new pools versus old pools. But how often are you finding structural leaks versus plumbing leaks?
So probably we find more plumbing leaks than we do structural,
Mm-hmm.
as long as you're not in certain parts of the valley.
Where movement's
Then
present.
that ratio changes. So
What
know,
parts of the valley would that be?
if you're going to go up to Anthem, almost none of those pools were built for expansive soil, and the soil is very expansive up there.
I wouldn't think that's expansive. I would think that's rock.
You would think so,
Yeah.
but there's
Lot of
parts
rock
of
up there.
Anthem that are so expansive, like
Really?
it's just clay. So it crushes the pools.
We haven't been there yet, have we? We
No.
haven't found that clay
We just
yet.
go to the rock jobs.
So other, southeast parts of the valley, Gilbert, Chandler,
Yeah.
you'll find expansive soil down there too.
I know Gilbert for sure.
Gilbert does.
So
we actually just got a picture from a company today. They've got the pool chipped out, and we did a post chip out pressure test, which is something we're trying to get more of the companies to do. Have us come in and pressure test before you guys put the new pebble in.
right.
This pool looks like Frankenstein.
Just zippered everywhere or
Oh
what?
my gosh, I didn't count the staples. There's got to be over 50 in there.
Jeez.
It's unbelievable. The pool's cracked on every wall and across the floor. I mean, it's nuts.
Start over. Blow it out.
Yeah,
Crazy.
that's about right.
Grab that dynamite.
So what
Microsoft
are, for the listeners that maybe, haven't seen all of it, what are like the types of leak you find? Like give us like 5 leaks. Like you got pipe leaks. Like what do you see structurally? Like what are some leak circumstances?
You've got pipe leaks. Pretty much you've got pipe leaks and you've got static leaks.
Mm-hmm.
So your pipe leaks are going to be a broken pipe. Static leaks are going to be voids, cracks, holes, things that leak statically with no pressure on them.
So like skimmer throats, right? That's got to be a high
That's a really good place to look for a leak.
skimmer throat where the tile meets or the pebble meets the skimmer face, right?
Yeah, basically where the you've got the actual plastic part of the skimmer that meets the wall of the pool.
Mm-hmm.
That separates all the time.
Have you seen, we've been out on some jobs where they'll have a leak, and have you ever seen tape hanging out of the joint between the tile or on the skimmer throat?
Yeah.
We'll go out, they'll call us for a leak, and we have to become leak detectors sometimes, just trying to help them find the leak. And you'll go to or you'll pull they'll pull like the suction cover, and there'll be tape like in around the pipe where they had it taped before they did interior, and nobody just pulled the tape out, and it's just hanging in there. Or around the light niche too. Around the light niche,
It's almost
Yep.
just screaming at you. Over
Yeah.
here.
bright red tape.
Fix me.
How often do you run into conduit, like light conduit leaks?
A lot now,
Really?
way more than we used to.
Is it because plastic has
Yep.
become more popular? Yeah.
They put this stuff, in the ground during the construction project. They walk on it, they drop things on it, and it's electrical conduit, so it's softer than PVC, but we get a lot of them.
Do you do the repair where you epoxy fill at the niche? Have you ever done one of those or seen that wedge they sell? I mean, that's
Usually
probably
we'll put epoxy in there
Mhm.
or butyl tape, but a lot of people like I'll have them pull the cord out of the conduit. They want it pressure tested, dug up, and fixed.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, because you can just seal off the niche where the cord goes in and just eliminate water getting into the conduit. I mean, I don't know what you do later. I guess if you change the light later, you're screwed, right? You got to pull it out.
You just got to redo it.
Yeah.
I mean, if it's in a really bad spot,
Mhm.
say, raised spa wall, if they put a nicheless light there,
Mhm.
that's all solid concrete. That's really not a fixable leak. So, I mean, you would use butyl tape. Butyl tape's really good. Underwater epoxy's good too.
What is butyl tape?
Butyl tape would be like, you see it in RVs a lot on the top of roofs. It's basically like a tar.
And is it literally tape? Like,
It comes on a roll of tape. You ball it up. It's real sticky. It's just like tar.
huh?
And that's actually really good for ceiling lights. It's really
Nice.
hard to work with in the winter, but it's good, if you let it set up on the deck and get warm.
Can you apply it underwater?
That's what it's for, yeah.
Oh wow, that's cool. I didn't know that existed.
It's kind of
Yeah.
like alien tape.
Yeah. I mean, it's
I
not
didn't mean to start this. Don't. No comment. Don't say anything, Justin.
This episode is brought to you by Lion Financial. Offer your customers the industry's best financing options and sell more pools. Lion Financial's low rates and long terms give your clients more buying power, making a pool affordable, one low monthly payment at a time. They offer unsecured loans with rates as low as 4.99% on approved credit, terms up to 30 years, options for credit scores 625 and up, and no 6% consulting fees like other finance sources charge your customers. Lion Financial pays builders directly, ensuring a payment on time and in full. Call 877-754-5966 or visit www.lionfinancial.net today. And now back to our episode. Nice. Okay, so skimmer throat leaks. What else do you find inside a pool that could leak? You said voids and stuff. Would that be like tile line voids, or where do you mostly see voids?
voids. I mean, skimmer mouths, around drains a lot. We'll
Mhm.
see those after the chip out, remodels or new builds, just the way that the shotcrete piles around the pipe.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, I tell these guys that are remodeling and building, go back in with hydraulic cement and go around the pipes, because the pebble just doesn't always do it. And if there's a big enough void, the water will push through the pebble.
Yeah.
What's hydraulic cement?
Hydraulic cement's it's a water sealing hydraulic cement, or I guess it's a water sealing
So-
concrete.
Imagine concrete with no aggregate and it's watertight.
A lot of
Oh, okay.
polymers in it.
Yeah.
It's real sticky, sets up real fast. In fact, you can hot ball it underwater
Mm-hmm.
if you really need to.
Yeah, it'll if you get the red bucket at Home Depot or wherever, you can apply it to the leak while it's happening. Like if you're in a situation, and it'll stop the water. It's literally called water stop.
Do you guys trust it?
We use it a lot. Exactly like you said, when there's a plumbing penetration, if we're in charge of the job, we hand pack in, or you use a no shrink grout, but water, which is close to the same thing.
So you're saying to do it no matter what in these areas, or when you think there's a possible.
I would.
Yeah.
I would do it for good measure.
Where do you do that exactly? Like everywhere that there's like a plumbing fixture, like a skimmer or in-floor.
So where we do it, or where we have seen it, is wherever there's a water stop, it's called, which is like a plastic fitting. Like in commercial, we use water stops a lot. So the water stop locks onto the pipe and then locks onto the material. So you would pack around the water stop with the water stop or the hydraulic cement. But anywhere there's a plumbing penetration where a gap can open up between the shotcrete and the pipe, you
Okay.
pack it in and it doesn't shrink. It's waterproof.
It's got a high PSI rating. I mean, it holds up.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, there's probably a lot of things that the shotcrete company. It seems like there's a lot of things that they could do to be proactive on keeping it from leaks. Are they usually like the main ones? And not knocking shotcrete companies because they're throwing around a lot of heavy, dense material around steel and the plumbing and all these different things. But are they usually the ones that cause these leaks?
Y- Like I said, I mean, shotcrete's being shot at, 100 PSI, right? I mean, it's going to pile the way it's going to pile. I mean, most of the time it piles really good, but sometimes it leaves voids. So probably the refinish crew, before they come in, I would do some prep. They do some cleanup after the shotcrete anyways. That would be a recommendation to come in with hydraulic cement and seal, areas like that.
Have you ever seen, thinking back on some of the leaks that we got sent out on and we found out, have you ever seen when they run like, let's say that there's like a raised wall and they'll run the stack stone all the way down into the water, like they don't put a tile break in and they don't properly waterproof behind it? We've seen that. You ever seen that before?
All the time.
That's terrible. Or like pocket rocks that are sitting in the water,
hmm
right?
I looked at one of those this morning.
Really? A rock or a
Rock.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, because they just pack those with granitecrete, right? I mean, that's like
Yeah, I want to say that they're supposed to shoot them into the bond beam,
right.
but the bond sometimes breaks and water will go up underneath the rocks and out through the back of the wall.
Yeah.
They're hard. The stacked stone leaks, I mean, if you get one of those, I mean, they're really hard to troubleshoot.
Yeah. Yeah, we literally went out on one and you could look where the tile stopped, where it hit the raised wall on both sides in the stone. I mean, you could have stuck a credit card in there and I'm like, man, but they call the plumber, of course, first.
So if there's like a leak within, say, the first year of a pool being built, is there should you be able to find the leak at the pressure test? Because I know every pool that we do and plumb for JMax, it gets a pressure test.
Mhm.
Should you be able to find the leak at that point? Like if it's not showing anything in the however long it's under that pressure test, if you can't find it then, is it like should the pool kind of stand the test of time?
Well, what's your experience been? Because I would think you're not seeing plumbing leaks at least for a year, right? I mean,
We don't see them on new builds that much
yeah,
unless somebody hits something.
right.
I mean, you guys are pressure testing that stuff to 30 PSI and it's staying under pressure.
For the entire construction.
Exactly.
Yeah,
At some point, somebody has done something and hit it.
yeah,
But usually on new builds, you're talking about static leaks.
right.
And when we get calls on new builds, we know that a lot of times is going to be a challenge or it's going to be an easy find.
All this talk Yeah. about leaks. I was excited to see that Anderson Manufacturing came on with their leak tools.
They've got the best stuff, man. We use it daily here at JMax. Anything from leak testing, plugging off lines. We've learned a long time ago to invest in good quality products, and Anderson is it.
If you were to open up any one of the service trucks, you'd see nothing but Anderson Manufacturing tools, whether it's the plugs, the dye test, pressure testing stuff, the legalizer.
Correct.
I mean, you name it, it's going to be in the truck. So Anderson, they've supported the show for quite a while now, so we always appreciate them, but it's nice to be working with a company of stuff that we use on the daily.
I think the other great thing too is they have a solution for everything. It's not just plugs. They have tracer dyes, they have epoxy, they have putties. We have a device to use that you can put over a light. It's like a big suction cup to test a light with dye. They have a whole line of leak detection products. So if you're out there and you're trying to chase a leak, you're not just chasing it through the plumbing. You can use their products to chase down anything in the whole pool.
At the end of the day, what are we really trying to accomplish?
I want to be able to give a definitive answer. Yes, you have a leak. No, you don't have a leak. And you got to be able to plug off everything and test every line to be able to tell them definitively, don't worry about this anymore, or now we get into leak location.
Find Anderson Plugs and LeakMaster repair products at your local distributor or at leaktools.com, where you'll also find a complete selection of specialized tools and electronics designed specifically for the professional pool leak specialist. And now back to the episode. So when you're talking to customers that are calling in or clients, what do you tell them? Like when they're trying to decide if they have a leak, do you have something you tell them like this is how much evaporation you should expect to see out of your pool? Is there something that's like a good measure?
Yeah, I mean, there's a series of questions that we'll ask people, but if you're losing anything over an eighth inch, you should probably have it looked at
Daily?
daily. Yeah.
Daily.
People losing an inch in 2 weeks. Those are jobs that you want to be a little bit careful going into, just because you need to know what the expectations are of the customer. And if you're dealing with an engineer, watch it.
That's
Engineers
the
are the hardest to deal with.
That's a hard pass.
They will go out there and measure it and say, I'm losing this many ounces per hour. And I'm like, I don't even know how you did that, but it's like, oh man, here we go.
Whenever I see an engineer come across and we have to plumb it, man, you got to just be ready, man.
Engineers are really hard to work with.
Yeah.
Dude, I've had to deal with a lot of them. I had one time. He's like, I don't know if you know this, but I'm not only an engineer, but I've built many pools. Went on a rant with a pool service company. And this was like towards like the tail end of Brothers, where I was like, fuck it. And I was just like, what pools have you built? You know what I mean? Like, who are your subs? I do this podcast. Maybe you could be on it sometimes. I've interviewed the best builders in the fucking country. And it just like went super silent.
Good for you, man. That's great.
Anyway, but dude, I've had experience, and they're almost too smart for their own good, because they are extremely smart. But when it gets down to those like nuances within, leak detection or plumbing or swimming pools, there's those little things that, can't be taught in the classroom or in the books,
Sure.
How often too do you come across, because sometimes we get a call and it's not necessarily that they see the pool is losing water, but they have a wet spot in the yard. Do you ever go out on those that end up being landscape?
Yeah. And you're going to get those in the winter in the East Valley.
Because nothing dries.
Well, and they have soil that they have a lot of clay out there, and that soil holds moisture forever.
Yeah.
So a lot of those.
I also notice that sometimes people will be like, it won't dry out. And like, we used to get that call a lot. Like, we'll go out and be like, hey, everything's fine. And then they call you a week later and like, it's still wet. And it's just because it takes like forever. Like an example was we had this one customer who overfilled their pool at startup, and we got the call back because they're like, hey, this thing's leaking. And we went out, no, you actually overfilled it. There's a gap between the deck and your tile. Water ran out. It flooded it. And they called like a week later. We were like, no, like let it dry out. A week later, let it dry out. It took like a month to finally dry out. But like people can't understand that, or they don't think you're lying to them.
Is there an easy way for you to rule that out before going to the actual property? Because I'm sure that's got to
what are
suck
your
where
questions?
you're visiting, all these, properties, and it's like, oh, it's irrigation.
It is, some of these people, you cannot convince them.
Really?
It's really tough. I mean, I guess you got to appease them somehow. You got to go out there and spend some time with them. Look at the backyard, see where the plumbing runs are, see where the pool is in relation to these wet spots. Try to talk them out of it. I mean, some of it is legit, and a lot of them are really not, but they'll run you in circles.
It's probably easier for you though, because you didn't install the plumbing or install the pool, so they kind of automatically trust you. Whereas like if the pool builder tells them no, they're probably like, "Hey man, you're just trying to get out of here." So at
Sometimes
least you have
we
that.
get those.
Yeah.
Where we're trying to work by both sides of the ball. We're trying to do right by the homeowner. We're trying to do right by the pool builder as well.
Right.
Wet spots after new pool builds. I tell the builders, I'm like, get the landscape gravel down immediately, because there's going to be some type of discoloration or dampness on the outside of the bond beam.
Pool leak.
Get the landscape rock down as quick as possible. You're going to have them, and they're impossible to figure out.
Yeah.
I wonder why they always go to the pool. I always think it's a pool leak.
Because it's 10,000, 20,000 gallons of water in the backyard. It's a psychological thing. It drives them nuts.
I think
My
you're right.
garage isn't closing all the way. I guarantee it's something to do with the fucking pool.
Right.
It's got to be something to do with this damn pool. The pool is the root of everything that fails at this property.
Yep.
What is what does it cost for leak detection? Like average cost on like a job, or give us a range. Like what does it cost to hire you guys?
I mean, it depends on what it is, but a lot of our stuff is probably around $395.
$395. What if it's got let me throw you one. So like pool spa with in floor. Like just want to test the plumbing. What does that cost?
I mean, that's a lot of work
Yeah.
to do all that. And, you know, the spas nowadays, they come in a lot of different shapes and sizes.
Yeah.
So if you start getting into waterway therapy jets, I mean, those things are a bear to work on.
Yep.
And the pop-up systems, it depends on how many pop-ups are in the pools.
So are you actually looking at before you give a quote? Like, are you going out there looking at it, going, "All right, this spa's got a booster pump"? Like,
You can't go out to every job. You
Right.
got to kind of ask them what they have. And if you think it might be something kind of elaborate, they've got a bunch of water feature pumps.
mhm.
You know, you've got to test all those suctions and outlets. You just have to kind of weed those people out
Yeah,
and figure out, you know, what kind of time are you going to have on site?
yeah,
So, you know, what's the internal cost of your company to do a basic pool with pop-ups and a spa?
yeah.
How long is it going to take you? You know, now we've got all kinds of different types of drains. The new MDX drains, those things are really hard to troubleshoot. And I want to say you got to have a 6-inch plug just to plug.
Yeah, 4-inch plug. You're talking about the MDX R3s?
Yeah.
Yeah, that big four. Actually, I think it's like a weird number. It's like 4.5 or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Damn, so you got to take
So-
that cover off, like
They're a bear to
dive
get
down
off.
and put the plug in if the pool's filled.
Yeah. You got to get it to set and stay.
The plug.
The plug. Yeah. And I mean, you're going to be using an inflatable in there, you know, a test ball.
That's right.
So you've got to inflate that, holding it underwater with somebody up on the deck. So that's the other thing you got to think about is how are you going to do all this?
Wait, so they inflate the ball from up on deck side?
Yeah, unless you've got underwater air.
Okay.
You know, if you've got a compressor
Oh,
running,
that's
you can
right,
do
yeah.
it that way.
Because, yeah, we use bike pumps, but, yeah, we're not in the water when we do it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Or you've got to have an inflation hose that's 20 feet long or something.
We had to plug some 12-inch suctions one time with the company. It was Riverflow. They made them. It was like a piece of plastic and then literally a tube from a wheelbarrow and then another piece of plastic. It was crazy.
Is it that crazy one out
Yeah.
in the East Valley?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
That was the craziest plug I've ever seen, though.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was-
Some of the bigger test balls, I mean, they're pretty serious.
yeah.
Do
What's
you
the biggest
use-
test ball you've seen?
I mean, they make them huge. I mean, as big a pipe as you can think of, but
Really?
you know, a 12-inch.
I've seen a 6-inch ball. I can't imagine a 12-inch ball.
12
Holy
inch is
shit.
just a big heavy block of rubber you inflate.
I was going to say, that thing's probably 80 pounds.
Yeah, it's heavy.
I'm just gonna stick this in here real quick.
But the thing is get them to the right PSI and make sure they set, because when they blow out,
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's pretty brutal.
Yeah.
what kind of underwater gear are you using? Do you have like a weighted like vest or something that keeps you like
We'll
stay
run like,
down?
you know, lead weights on a weight belt. Summertime's great because we don't wear hardly any weight at all. Wintertime, we're running a lot of weight because we're running dry suits and undergarments and all that.
Ryan and I were talking before. We do a little bit of underwater repairs, and they don't run bottles. They run hose, so they're not carrying a tank on their back. They're using just a regulator and hose out, which I thought was pretty cool.
Oh. So how does that work exactly? I don't know if I've seen that before.
You know, there's some air snorkels and some different things like that plug in. You set them up on the deck, and you know you can breathe off of those all day.
Like there's a main oxygen tank on the deck.
Now it's a pump, like a compressor. So it's pulling the air in, filtering it, and you're breathing it.
Wow.
How cool is that? You don't have to fill your bottle or have all that ballast on your back. Or
Yeah. Have you never heard of that before? Have you tried it?
well, I had seen, they call them hookahs or something, right? It
Mhm.
looks like a little life ring. I had seen it, I guess, but never thought about using it in a pool application, because they do it for like shallow scuba diving. I've seen.
Yep.
But it sounds like that's the way to go.
It's a lot easier. I mean,
Your
with a
mobility's
BCD,
better.
everything, it's not as dangerous. If you need to egress out of the water, you can get out quick
Right.
if something goes wrong. But if you've got, with the tank and the BCD and the weights, I mean, you're 70 something pounds
Yeah.
by the time you get in the water.
And it's cool that you can go all day, or as long as that thing will run too.
You can just sit down there,
Yeah.
chill out. Kind of cool, actually. Sit down there and relax.
I like it.
I'm assuming it's like anybody can do it, opposed to like maybe being like, because if you have a scuba tank, you need to be trained in that because you can, hurt yourself pretty quick if you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah, I mean, your tanks are what, 2,000 PSI?
Yeah.
I mean, the scuba stuff's kind of serious. You need to go get PADI certified to run that. For something like this, I mean, it's a weight belt. You can drop your weight belt if you get into trouble. You've got your breathing device. You can sit down there and breathe all day. It's easier.
Pretty cool.
Sounds fun.
Hey,
Sounds
wanna-
better
I
than
wanna-
working in the dirt trenches around a pool.
I want to try it one day. Oh, that's really cool.
All right. So, question for you: if someone suspects they have a leak, is there like some things they should check off the list first before they reach out to leak detection? Like, check this first, check this. I know you said you had some questions you asked. Do you have a checklist for people, or?
a lot of it is just kind of talking to people over the phone, seeing what they have going on. We want to know, do you have a high water bill? Do you have a loss of pool chemistry like cyanuric acid, salt? Do you see a substantial loss in the pool? Is the autofill running all the time? Do you have muddy or wet spots around the pool? If you don't have any of those things, then, we'll come out there, but what are we
Looking for?
exactly,
So it's almost like an interview. Are you doing that interview, or is there multiple?
I used to.
Yeah.
I've got my lady, my office staff trained to do it.
Yeah.
And they some of them, they're like, hey, Ryan, you need to talk to this guy.
I see.
And I'll get on the phone and find out what's really going on. But the more you do it, the more experience you have in the field, the more that you can kind of weed stuff out on the phone. Just like, when you guys used to do pool service repair, you guys got a pretty good idea of what you're dealing with just by the initial phone call.
Yeah, you learn that real quick.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm an engineer, and a couple ounces came up missing overnight.
You're breaking
Exactly.
up. You're breaking up.
Exactly.
Say that again.
We're booked out.
Yeah, exactly. Dude, I think, I love forms, but man, that was the greatest way to like weed people out. Because it got to a point where so many calls were coming in to where if they actually took the time to complete the form, it gave us an advantage because we could see all the details, photos of the pool, the equipment pad, like everything. And if they'd be okay with keeping a card on file and, a couple filter cleans a year and different things like that. And it's like, if you're willing to fill everything out on the form and you still want us to come out and take a look at it, then this is a good fit. Because, a lot of other people are going to wash right out because they're not going to take the time. And if you don't care, like, why the fuck should we care? You know what I mean? Do you have a form on your website or anything like that?
We have basically just like kind of a what do you call it?
Questionnaire?
Kind of a questionnaire. They can kind of
Contact us inquiry.
pretty much like an inquiry sheet.
Don't you have, I think I saw on your website, don't you have like a sticker you'll mail to somebody or something like that?
A sticker?
Don't you guys have like a water line tape test or something?
We don't have that.
No.
No, we don't have that. We
That was
do it a
last
little.
week's guest.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
No. There was somewhere I saw it where there's, because do you do the static tests like that too? Isn't it called tape test, right? On the tile?
We call it a leak down test.
Leak down.
You
Yeah.
can call it a bucket test. We're basically just trying to figure out what the real evaporation losses are versus the pool losses. And it's, I know that there's a new thing that Anderson Manufacturers has got out. Well, it's not new. It's been around for a while called the Leakalizer.
Yeah, I own that.
And you got one.
Yeah.
They're tricky to run, but they are a great tool. We have one. I mean, they measure in 10,000ths of an inch, so they're pretty sensitive.
You know what the mistake I made with that thing when I first got it was you can't have, they're designed to be that bar that you push the device up and down on. You need 4 inches of deck. And if you're using like travertine, you need to prop it up on something so it'll be within range. And I was propping it up on the black box, and that black box, as it sits in the sun, gets hot, and it makes your readings all wacky.
Oh, yeah.
really?
Yeah. So I used to use the box as the riser to stick the plate on. And I was like, why does this happen only on these jobs? And then I figured it out. I sent it back to be calibrated, like all this stuff. I did it like in my house at a bucket. I was like, all right, we're going to make sure this thing's like calibrated.
Yeah.
It was the stupid box I was sitting it on.
They send it back with like a little sun hat.
Yeah.
Said, here,
You're an idiot.
put some shade on it. It'll be all right.
But what I like about that is it's fast and you can send a report.
Oh yeah, that's
I
the
think
one
that's
that
cool.
it'll send like a digital report to like your email, right?
Yeah, it'll output like a bar chart or a graph.
It is. I mean, it'll also have you chasing your tail too.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah, I've used it, a couple dozen times, and mostly all the times I use it, it was either to initiate this to where we start looking for a leak or to dispel it or whatever.
Mm.
But what's your experience been like? Just inaccurate or what?
It, like I said, I mean, it's so sensitive that it can have you chasing your tail.
Really?
And if a customer comes and looks at this thing, I mean, game on.
Yeah.
20 gallons of loss, really. But we need to figure that out. That's a lot of water, you
Yeah.
know? So, I mean, we kind of stick to the static leak down tests. It's a little bit more broad. It's not as sensitive, but I mean, it's still accurate enough. None of these pools are going to hold water perfectly.
Right. They all leak, right?
Yeah.
Do you ever use like a camera to go through the plumbing or anything like that?
Yeah, we use cameras.
How well does that work?
Depends on how many 90s the plumbers put in.
Yeah.
These guys are really good. J-Max is. They try to stay away from the hard 90s. Stuff from the past, I mean, some of it's unbelievable. How many 90s they throw in the plumbing, it's just crazy.
I didn't even know you could get a camera past. We have another plumbing division that does houses, and we can only scope the stuff with the sewer stuff. I didn't even know you could get past that many 90s.
It's finesse and using the equipment,
Yeah.
knowing how far to push it.
Are you using the rigid, like the sea snakes, or what are you guys using?
Yeah, the sea snakes.
Yeah, sea snakes.
I was gonna say, is that where the camera's like the end of a snake and you're just kind of feeding it through?
Mm-hmm. It's on a reel.
Wow. It'd be almost nice if they designed a camera that could almost like say go from like the skimmer or something and go through the whole entire system while it's on, but the footage you get is kind of like slowing it down like in frames so that it could move through it.
It's really the 90s, the hard 90s.
I bet.
And if you stick a camera in the plumbing, I mean, it's not a good deal. So you got to know when to stop.
Yeah.
Well, that's just like the
You get committed and you're pulling a plumbing line out.
I mean, they're a useful tool for what we do just because pool plumbing is so unpredictable underground. Some guys will run stuff in places that you wouldn't expect them to be.
Yeah.
So it kind of helps you make sense of what's down there. But I mean, there are limitations to it.
Since we're talking about cameras, I don't want to forget to ask, is there any like cool technology out? I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to be for like leak detection for a swimming pool, but is there some other technology, for homeowners, they've got these digital, things that you can put at,
Talking about the Mow and SmartFlow?
yeah, like something like that. Like,
Water
is there
measuring
things
device?
that you like.
That's actually, we recommend that one a lot
Yeah.
to people. And
Where does that go? It just goes on the spigot or it goes
Goes on the water main.
anywhere?
Well, I mean, we always install them on the water main, but I guess you could install them on even just your water loader, I guess, if you wanted to. But you're recommending they put them on the water main, right? So they can track?
they should. I mean, we've recommended that they put them on the irrigation mains.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe not the Mow and Smart Flow just because they're so expensive, but we've gone out and put flow meters in different places
Mm-hmm.
just to monitor. But we recommend that all the time. Or the Fin. Have you heard of Fin? PHYN?
Yeah.
Is that the one that floats in the pool?
No, this one PHYN. It's called Fin, and it actually does the same thing that the Moen does.
Mm-hmm. I haven't seen that one.
I think Finn does have something like that floats in the pool that was like,
Evaporative measure.
yeah,
Yeah, I think I remember that.
but
They're super accurate.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they'll shut your main off. They learn the algorithms of, or they've got
Sprinklers.
AI built into them.
Yeah. That's right. Like leak detection and it'll kill the valve, right?
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
are there more companies like selling that stuff hard? because it seems like it would make more sense, like if you're a landscaper, to like have that on irrigation, and if you're like in pools, to have that attached to the pools, so that when they do have a problem, just like you might not be able to, you don't know what this information is telling you, but at least we can ask you some questions, or when we go out here, we can look at it and figure out what's going on.
I mean, Rainbird has got something exactly like that. It's all hooks up to Wi-Fi. That's a pretty neat system.
What is that?
Rainbird, and it'll actually monitor the irrigation main.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's neat, and it hooks up to Wi-Fi. So I mean, you can sit and look at your water usage, everything.
Like that.
But the flow by mowing's coming in on the main, so it's going to catch everything down to, I think, like 0.1 or 0.2 gallons a minute.
It's hardcore.
Yeah, and also customers that have those, they're fun to deal with because they sit
I know
there and
everything.
just watch them.
I know everything.
Do you have any idea what those cost?
Where are they, six
the
something?
flows? Yeah, they're like $500-$600.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, plus install.
Got to throw that in there. Plus install.
Plus install 480.
For anybody listening that wants one installed.
What's the hardest leak you ever had to find? Was it the one you said, or do you got another hard one that sticks out?
I had one last year that was loose soil, about 4 feet down, commercial job under flagstone. We were out there. That one took me, I think, 2 good days to figure that one out. I knew where it was, but I really wanted to know because we were going to have to fix it. So I didn't want to be 5 feet off of it. I wanted to be maybe a foot off of it.
Right.
But it was 4 feet down, washed out, sandy soil up in True North, under flagstone, 8-inch thick deck.
So does that make it harder when it's in sand?
Sand, yeah.
Because you can't hear it as well, or?
I mean, sand doesn't convey vibrations up to the ground. It doesn't hold moisture. It just drains out. So sand is tough. Rock is tough.
So you want it to be in dirt, or?
If possible, but I mean, a lot of times by the time you get to these leaks, it's washed the fines out of the dirt.
Yeah. Huh?
And a lot of times it's just sand and pebbles around it.
What if it's in the shell, like integral into the concrete? Is it easier to hear when it's in the concrete? That's like a big speaker, right?
Yeah, but it speaks to the whole pool.
Oh, yeah. Huh?
A lot of times. So if they're encased in concrete, those are tricky leaks to diagnose as well.
Yeah.
So those take a little bit of time, and honestly, I think they're more tricky than just normal slab leaks out, underneath the dirt.
Is there helium in leak detection? Is that a thing?
You can use helium.
Because do they use a helium sniffer when they use helium? Because it rises?
Yeah, I mean, helium's a good tracer gas to use.
Yeah.
And there's an array of different types of sniffing devices to pick up where it's coming up.
Yeah.
But, like I said, it's 90% the operator. So helium comes out where it can come out. That doesn't mean the leak is there.
Yeah. Could follow a channel, a path of least
Absolutely.
resistance.
It'll follow pipe bundles. I mean,
yeah.
It's tricky to use too.
Do you guys use that at all?
We have in the past used helium.
Yeah.
But like I said, it's tricky. It's got a time and a place. It's not like something you're going to find every leak with.
Right.
I've had guys ask me before, well, we want to do it with helium. I'm like, oh, good luck with that.
Yeah.
You got to know how to do it all. So,
yeah.
So since you get all these different leak inquiries, do you have any suggestions for, the pool builders out there on like kind of how to, prep for that?
Yeah. I mean, how far do you want to dive into this?
Well, maybe just things that, what can they do to avoid leaks? I don't know if that's putting more eyes on the projects and making sure that the people doing shotcrete are, banging shit up, or making sure that their plumbing company is pressure testing. I mean, whatever suggestions you have so that they have a successful pool build,
For years down the road.
Yeah.
Exactly. Longevity wise.
Yes.
So actually just talked about this with a client last week because he was so upset about what we had to go through to fix his leak. And he's like, and he was actually a plumber from the Bay Area for 30 years. And he's like, he was mad. He's like, why would they do this? So what's different with houses than on pools is when most of the time when they build a house, they build it so that they're like, someday I might have to service this. So I might need to get into it. On the pools, they don't think that way.
You're talking about like clean outs and stuff like that,
Ways
access.
to access, like how many cleanouts do you have around a house? You
Ton.
know, how many different ways do you have to get into that sewer line? How many different ways do we have to get into a skimmer line should you suck something up into it? One way in and one way out. And also, they don't use hard 90s in houses. You know, so things are serviceable, and in the pools, they're just not. And nobody's really thinking that way. But probably the biggest thing, I know Justin, I kind of drove his crew nuts when they plumbed my pool because I made them keep all the plumbing away from the walls and out of the shotcrete.
We just plumbed Ryan's pool probably less than 6 months ago, and yeah, we dug super deep, right, coming out of your spa or your pool, wherever the main run hit, right?
Yep.
And you wanted it completely separate from the structure, right?
I wanted it away from it, and I just wanted solid PVC going through the walls. Now, I couldn't do that with the spa, but on the pool I could. And basically, when the shotcrete crew comes in and shoots, all those T's and 90s up next to the wall, they go in solid shotcrete. Lots and lots of leaks occur right there. Normally.
Yeah.
And then, you know, coming out the spa bundle, you know, they shoot the spa wall, they shoot shotcrete all the way down the bundle. They encase all those 90s and T's in solid concrete above and below. And luckily, the way that JMax does their plumbing, they set the pipes next to each other instead of stacking them on top of each other in a bundle.
Which is a nightmare, right? I mean, that's
if you have
the
to
worst
want to
case.
fix it, it's brutal.
Yeah.
I mean, you're talking a really long week.
I've never seen that before. Do people do that?
Oh,
On
Ryan
every
was
sing-
just on one today. Met Chris on one, and the pipes are not only are they stacked, but they're like all
And they're heat
perpendicular.
bent. And they're heat bent in different angles. Angles they couldn't make with fittings, so they heat bent it.
Yeah.
Damn.
So don't stack. I like the idea of the fittings not being right in the beam. So I like that. So how did you do that on your pool? Did we run it into the floor height, or what did you do
No,
there?
I had you guys take it back from the wall. That way, all my returns, all my pipes running in were just straight in. It's very,
I got you. It's
it's very rare that we see lateral cracks in PVC.
Right.
It's almost always in a fitting. So if
Yeah.
you stick it in concrete, and then look at our temperature swings right now. I mean, it was 64 degrees this morning, and it was 90 something this afternoon, right?
Right.
Everything's expanding and contracting. So if you stick something in concrete like PVC and something wants to move like the deck just a little bit, it's going to snap the PVC. The other thing is we'll cut a pipe and the pipe will immediately do this because there's stress
Yeah.
on everything. So my trenches, I brought in washed concrete sand. I brought in 20 tons of it, and I took a tractor and I backfilled all my trenches with sand.
What's washed concrete sand?
It doesn't have all the dust in it,
Oh,
just
okay.
washed.
Nice.
So even around the spa, you know, I went in and wrapped, this is kind of overkill, but I went in and wrapped insulation tape around the T's and 90s just because it couldn't be avoided in the shotcrete. So before they shot it, I looked at weak points under the skimmer and things like that and wrapped it.
So where the bundle comes out, or what we call the main trunk, comes out of the spa, if a builder, because that's usually where we dig a huge hole into the side of the spa or the pool. So that's why the shotcrete's escaping when they shoot it. So maybe if they put up like a kicker, like a plywood kicker or something right in front
I
of
had
it.
them do it on mine.
Yep.
And then when they got done blowing the shotcrete down the bundle, I had them get in there and dig all that off the bundle. Because there was literally a pile on top of the bundle. I'm like,
Pull it.
yep, get it out of here.
That's cool. What else? So sand shading too. Well, no, you said you don't like sand, right?
For finding leaks in?
No, for like a preventative measure. I mean, I guess if you sand shade it, the chances of it getting screwed up by the soil around it are less, but it's harder to find the leak in it. But would you recommend sand shading?
Yeah, I mean, if the pipes are not moving,
Mm-hmm.
if they've got some, I call it insulation, the sand is great because it moves.
Yeah.
What's sand shading?
So sand shading for us is like when we dig the trench in the native soil, we'll put down a bed of sand because sand doesn't have any like if you're in rocky soil, for example, you don't want the rocky soil against the pipe. So you put the bed down, then you put the pipe down, and then you top shade it.
Is that kind of like remember that when I was at for mechanical Apache Junction, where there was it wasn't for a pool,
Oh,
but
that was a septic field.
yeah,
Yeah,
but there
yeah,
was
yeah.
like all that sand
Yeah.
that was brought in. It's
Yeah,
kind of like that.
That's because it was a septic. Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, same thing. Same thing.
Concept.
What else can they do? Like, what else do you think?
Honestly, what needs to happen is a city needs to probably get involved and have some provisions
Mm-hmm.
on this stuff. You know, you can't stack 90s on top of each other. Stacked 90s break at some point. I mean, think about what you're doing. You know, you're going to put all of this plumbing through here and you're going to shoot it in solid concrete, 2 feet thick. Who's going to service this when it breaks? Who's going to do it, first of all? And what is it going to cost the homeowner? Some of the repairs that we're seeing because of how things were constructed, these are $10,000 repairs.
Believe it.
And
Ton of time.
insurance is not covering this stuff.
Man, I think you're right too, especially if a homeowner wants to sue like a pool company or something
not
like
gonna
that
happen.
when nobody was ever held accountable, for, signing off on the plumbing or electrical or whatever it may be. Like if there's no accountability for any of those things, like doesn't
There's
seem
not.
like there should be a leg to stand on if you're trying to like sue somebody for them not doing something, because it's difficult for everybody that has to go. I'm sure even there's pools that we have to go look at where we didn't plumb them, and it's like, man, I have no fucking idea, what they were thinking when they
Well, they weren't
were
thinking.
doing this.
Yeah.
But, on the other hand, I have a lot of builders that we do work with that are great builders, and they do think about this stuff. And they do think about the water hydraulics, and they're out there watching what the plumbers are doing. I mean, J-Max, these guys, you don't need to do that with them. Justin's got everything, all the mathematics done on all the runs, everything. So they're using 90s only where necessary,
Mm-hmm.
but they're thinking through their projects, which is great because you guys do a lot of custom, elaborate pools.
For sure.
But we do have a lot of builders that do think about this stuff. Like, who's going to service this if it breaks? Is it going to be me within my warranty period?
I know Justin is so anal about this shit. Like I feel terrified just posting a picture on Instagram or something for JMax. Like
Yeah.
if the plumbing isn't just right, because if something that he would do, being a master plumber, if it's not something the way that you would do it, it's like I don't know about that one. Looks a little crooked. I'm like, how the fuck can you tell if that's crooked?
We make mistakes too, for sure, but we are more calculated, I think. And I would say, one thing that we see a failure a lot is the stress on a 45 for some reason, because it's harder to dig the trench for a 45 and the guys will force it into that 49 or whatever they dug. We see a lot of those. But what sucks, going back to what you said about, it'd be nice if the municipalities had some stricter guidelines. You only have to warranty it for 2 years. The warranty period is so short.
Didn't they just shorten it to a year?
Did they?
Somebody told me that.
I didn't hear that yet, but that would be terrible because 2 years is already short, and
Yes.
you could really screw up an install, and it will last for 2 years. I see some of these hacks out here that are doing work, and I'm like, yeah, even their stuff will last 2 years,
What do you think would be a good amount of time?
5 at least. Think about it. You invest 60, 80K in a pool. Don't you want it to last 5 years?
Yeah.
I know they
minimum.
give structural warranties longer than that, but the mechanical part.
That's the crazy thing is you never know.
Yeah.
You could get a pool built that's, because I feel like it doesn't matter what builder you go with. If they're using like different subs or something, like they're switching out their plumbers or electricians or concrete
Sure.
people, it's like you're not getting a very consistent product because every team is, doing things a little bit differently.
Will you be surprised? Or you may not be surprised how many plumbers have worked for some of the bigger outfits. And you go into some of the parking lots, where they're loading up plumbing in the morning. It's some of the different distributors. There's lots of these trucks with plumbing racks on top. They're out plumbing new pools.
Yeah.
They may not be licensed, but they're out doing it.
There's so many freaking just misfit plumbers right now. It's out of control.
Yeah.
Out of control.
Not get started.
Don't
on
get me
that.
started. What about so that handles the plumbing side. So what could they do different, like on the structural leaks you see? Like what do you think some things that they could do?
Structural,
besides, leak testing immediately when they get the pool done? I mean, what do you think?
So like on my pool build, we went on ahead and did a PSI 45. Not quite structural or not quite engineered, but things are beefed up more, thicker walls,
Mhm.
6-on-6 rebar. Number three, I think a lot more. One of the requirements for pulling a permit ought to be soil conditions.
Yeah.
Are you building a pool in expansive soil and being allowed to do it and passing inspection? It's gonna crack in the future. Is the drainage for the landscape right? If you've got a pool that's set in expansive soil, not engineered right, and you've got the drainage going to the pool, you're definitely gonna have a crack.
That's a great point.
There's no doubt about it.
So mitigating movement is basically.
Just a couple things. Now, these are more expensive. It's gonna cost you more to plumb a pool to do it this way. It's gonna cost you more to build, to have an engineering firm come out and test your soil and make sure that you're not expansive,
Mhm.
but it's worth it in the end because these repairs, if you build a pool in expansive soil that's not engineered for it, you'd never get to the end of the cracks in the shell.
And I feel like the only way that's going to happen is like we said, is if the cities start making these warranty periods have to last longer, because guys aren't doing it because the pools are outlasting their warranties. But I bet you if pool builders had a couple pools fail, they'd be pulling those soils tests on every single job.
I
I'm
know
gonna say, what are some of the consequences for builders? Maybe you've seen certain builders go down this path, but if you don't take it seriously at all, like what are the consequences of that?
that's real easy. I mean, the ROC is going to come in and pull your license, which, you know, what I'm kind of seeing is they'll go in and do a fix long enough to get them out of warranty.
Mm.
Um, and I mean, I feel for some of these guys that get into some of the stuff that we go out on. I mean, man, and sometimes, it'll go past the warranty as well.
What's crazy, we had a guest on too, and he brought up a good point. He's like, these houses in Arizona, they sell so quick, everybody makes money and then sells,
Mhm.
and it doesn't transfer. So these pool builders have almost no liability in their warranty. It's crazy.
Yeah. I mean, because you think if I was a builder and you're trying to keep that relationship with a customer, right? If you do care, and if you don't care about, a leak part of it, like you're just going to have all kinds of issues because that's dealing with water chemistry as well. Like if your plumbers aren't doing things correctly and you have these leaks because they're not, pressure testing the equipment and you're having leaks, that's just coming back on you because I'm sure you're getting a lot of calls from builders or the homeowners contacting them and it's like, hey, what the fuck's going on? And then you're having to go out there, right?
Yeah, we go out there and like I said, we'll go out there on behalf of the builder. And where it really gets the lines really get funny is when you go out there for the homeowner and then you get a call from the builder.
And the builder too.
Sometimes we do, sometimes we don't. And it's like, now somebody wants you to say one thing, the homeowner wants you to say the other. You're like, guys, the homeowner's like, or the builder's like, hey, send me the report. You're going to go to bat for me, right? And it's just like, man, you can get caught
You
in
just
the middle
leave
of
a
that.
homeowner's house and you just get a call. You backstabbing son of a bitch.
Not in a while. I've tried really hard to mitigate those and just handle those situations the best that I can.
That's
Yeah.
the nature
And
of the
if I do
beast.
find something out there, I have a lot of respect for the builders. And, they're doing the best they can out here. They're having trouble with subs, they're having trouble with concrete. I've even seen some stuff with the PVC that's been coming out that isn't quite right.
Great.
It's just like, you know what I'm
Edit
saying?
that part out, please.
It's just like these guys have got their hands full. A lot of them are really good and they really do care. And some of them, I mean, they're just doing the best they can. So a lot of times if we find something, I'll get a hold of the builder. If I can figure out who it is, say, hey dude,
This is what's up.
I haven't told the homeowner yet. How do you want me to handle this? They're paying me to be out here.
Yeah.
So I'm working for them.
That's a nice courtesy thing to do.
You got to do it. You
I
don't
don't
want
think a lot
to, you don't
would
want to
do
burn
that.
these guys,
Yeah.
Mm-mm. No, you're right. Most of them do care. That sucks. It's a shitty situation.
How often do you get calls from owner builders? Do you ever get any?
Yes. Those are no fun.
Are they worse than like a pool built?
Yes.
Yeah.
What you get into there is there's almost always an ROC dispute. and there's finger pointing, and sometimes there's a lawsuit going on. So we've been called in for like expert witness stuff. And I'd be like, I'm not doing it. They're like, they'll actually send me a subpoena and said, yes, you are.
Shit.
So, we'll do like a video thing. During COVID, we do a video thing and the judge is sitting there and everybody else. And like, can't get away from this stuff. It is what it is. So, but yeah, owner builders, they're a real problem.
Yeah.
And the fact that they're allowed to do it, I mean, there should be some provisions on what they're doing.
Yeah. It makes me nervous because a lot of them are taking on big projects.
Way bigger than what they should be doing.
Mhm.
Way bigger.
I mean, is it within the process of building a pool? Is it on them? Is it their vetting process of who they're hiring? Like, what part of the process are they flubbing on?
I usually see structural stuff with that. And if I'm seeing structural stuff, it'll be like an expansive soil situation. Usually like the new plumbing we don't get a lot of calls for like new plumbing, honestly.
Yeah.
But a lot of
But you
times
have gotten stuff on, like, I'm the owner builder. I built this, and
Mhm.
maybe it was 3 or 5 years ago that we did it, but I think I have a leak.
a lot of these guys are like brand new. They just filled it with water.
And they think they have a leak?
They know they have a leak because a lot of times they've really got a problem, and they kind of know that they're screwed. The ROC comes out and they're like, "You did what?"
Yeah.
They're like, "All right, well, they pretty much don't help them."
What is the ROC coming out for?
A complaint.
a complaint like, "Hey, my structure cracked," or it's the plumbing, or
So who are they making the complaint on?
they'll make it on whatever sub that they called out that they know did,
Oh, okay.
the shell or whatever. So then the ROC's out there just trying to. It's really hard for them too to try to figure out what to do.
That sucks.
Yeah, that does suck.
It sucks because if you're an owner builder, you can't just point back to the builder and let the builder figure it out. You got to do it. And I bet
The ROC's like, "You GC'd this project and you're not licensed, so this is really hard for us."
Yeah. Crazy.
That's
Crazy.
So we always have these end of the interview questions. What is like your favorite pool that you've ever been to?
Probably, it's a good one.
I know your pool's not built yet, but there's
Gotta
gotta be
say that one. We've been up to the owner of DirecTV's pool.
Where's
What?
that?
It's up on Camelback,
Oh, of course.
and that thing's crazy. He actually had German engineers come in to put some type of special pump system on it. The pool's 18 feet deep on the side of the mountain.
Really?
Yeah.
North side or
18
south
feet
side?
deep?
It's actually on the west side of the mountain.
By
It's off of Lincoln, I think.
so it's over by the Praying Monk area, that side.
Yeah, I think
There's
so.
some crazy stuff tucked up there.
Did you
Yeah.
have to swim to the bottom of that?
No, no, I actually didn't. But I mean, the guy had a rope swing and all kinds of stuff. It was pretty nuts. I looked in the bottom of this thing and I was like, "How did you guys hang this off the side of the mountain like this?"
That's crazy.
Yes.
18 feet. Was it big too? Like a lot of square footage?
Yeah, it was pretty good size.
Side of the mountain.
But
That's
for
cool.
anybody to work on the pool equipment, I guess he has to fly people from Germany
That's
to
crazy.
come and work on it.
That's that DirecTV money.
Yeah.
He probably had Cox Cable too. Probably didn't even have a DirecTV there.
That pay-per-view money.
So that might answer number two. The number two was in the interview, most outrageous pool you've ever seen.
Outrageous, man. We just finished working on one out in Mesa. You see these pools that have lazy rivers.
Mm-hmm.
Geez, 18 feet deep.
Another one.
Yeah.
You like
just
the deep ones?
unbelievable, crazy.
Honestly, didn't even think that was legal to have a pool that
Ooh.
deep.
They're massive.
Not to answer some of these questions myself, but we saw one on Camelback on Biltmore Circle. It was the owner of Christie's Cabaret. That's a strip club out here, and it was 20 some feet deep. 20 some feet deep, and it was the diving tank, and that thing was crazy. That's the deepest pool I've ever. Actually, I think it was 25 feet deep.
Probably ask this
Unbelievable.
every time this comes up, but is there a legal limit to how deep a pool can be?
I don't know.
20 feet? Holy
No,
shit.
it was. I think it was 25. And I remember they had to hire a special shotcrete company because the rebar was so big that the nozzleman had to be trained because the shadowing, they call it shadowing when you shoot shotcrete against rebar, it creates a shadow behind it. And you have to have a certain nozzle certification or whatever to have shot the pool. It was so big. They were like 1-inch rebar.
You need somebody that does like more freeway bridges come in here and do that.
I need the address to that, so I make sure that I avoid that call.
You'll know when you pull up to the front. It's like the most gaudy house ever you've ever seen. There was
That's a
freaking statues everywhere. It was crazy.
so it's a lot of lap dances then.
Yeah, a lot of lap dances.
Well, if you can't do it.
So what did that Mesa one have? 18 feet deep, lazy river. You were
Yeah.
checking for leaks?
Yep. It ended up being in a huge plumbing bundle in the yard.
Shit.
Nuts. We end up having to cut a massive plumbing bundle for the pool and spa. I think there were 30 pipes in it or something.
Sick.
Crazy. So do you have a book that you would recommend? And if you're not a big reader, audio book or inspirational show or
Movie.
something that's kind of driven you to kind of, keep the momentum going.
You know, a book I read last year was Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Dude, surprisingly, that one does not come
in.
up.
I'm like 3 or 4 chapters in.
Have you reading it now?
Yeah, I'm reading it now.
It's cool, isn't it?
Yeah. That is a good one.
That's like one of those books that's like, I feel like you almost avoid because you're afraid of like, it kind of like exposes you a little bit. You're like, man,
The accountability of
I'm
it.
fucking
I haven't read
terrible.
I haven't read the whole thing, but it seems like the book that should be mandatory to read like early on when you're trying to figure yourself out.
Yeah, it's like a book you should have to read in school. Like it's a very good book.
That's never come up before? That's a
If
solid
it
one.
has, it's been a very long time
like
since
a
anybody's brought it up, but that is
staple.
yeah. But I mean, so after reading that book, what did it do for you?
You know, it's basically it's entrepreneurial spirit. This is America. This is how it's done. You want to build wealth? This is how it's actually really done. And it's neat for business owners. It'll really get your wheels turning in your head. It'll start making you climb, and it'll start making you think outside the box. So it's definitely not stuff that you're going to learn in college. That's for sure.
That's awesome.
Kind of makes you understand what you're actually in business for. I feel like it kind of like we all have a different mindset on maybe why we're being an entrepreneur or starting a business. And it kind of goes in and disrupts that, where it's like, dude, this is like, if you're going to go into business, this is actually how you make money. And this is how you pretty much fail at it. Yeah.
Yeah, very true.
Who's a guest that you'd be excited to hear on the podcast?
Pool company?
Anybody?
Anybody? Honestly, Brandon Bush with Aquashine.
Okay.
We do some work for him. I know Brandon. We could get him on for sure.
He's had a hell of a journey,
Really?
and he's built a tremendous company. I actually worked with him at Diamondback 15 years ago almost.
Wow.
And he got out and got his own thing started, and Brandon's really a success story. He's a really cool guy too.
Yeah, he is a good dude.
How long has he been doing Aquashine?
Well, have to be 13, 14 years, something like that, I
Oh,
would
wow.
think.
Okay. So he's been doing it for a little while.
Yeah.
We've done work with him for 5 years at least. So he's a good dude.
Well,
Yeah, I think he's got 40 employees or something now.
They're everywhere. I see their trucks everywhere.
Yeah.
it's like the white pickups with the blue.
Uh-huh.
Well, I think it's white and black, isn't it? Like
That was blue.
Oh.
That was white trucks with blue writing.
find out. We'll edit that part in.
Yeah. Anyway, thank you so much, Ryan, for being on the podcast. This was like a very educational and fun
Great.
interview. For all the listeners, where can they, find you and how can they reach out to you?
Find us on Google.
Leak Science.
Yeah, give me a call. Leakscience.com.
You on social media?
Yeah, we're on Facebook, Instagram.
What's your IG handle? Is it just Leak Science?
Yep.
Leak Science, no underscores.
I'd have to look because I actually don't know. I
We'll
don't
put
handle
it-
my social
We'll also
media.
edit that in.
We'll put it in the show notes. But once again, thank you so much. This was really cool, and I think
Awesome.
people listening will get a lot from it. So thank you.
It's awesome.
Thanks for the invite. It was great to be here.
Thanks, Ryan.
You got it.